When you touch me, crazy. I'm crazy the way you love me, crazy.
Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. This is a very, 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 very special show because my guest today hasn't been on the show since 2018. And many of you have asked, where has Brooks Kubik been? Well, now we're going to explain everything from the beginning and where he is now. And it's a very, very exciting show because Brooks just set some world records. He's still doing it, folks. And that just goes to show you, you can too, if you make up your mind to do it. Before we get started, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, for making these amazingly sweet and delicious sweet rolls. If you want to eat a Cinnabon, but you don't want all the sugar and the crap, we have a cinnamon, chocolate, and wild berry sweet roll. You'll think you're eating crap, but you're not. You don't have to have the guilt. 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality dairy protein, 5 net carbs. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 so they know that you learned about them here, not only to save 10%, and you're helping the show as well. And now, without further delay, I don't want to waste a second talking about nothing and start talking with my buddy, Brooks Kubik. How you doing, Brooks?
Hey, Carl, I'm great. How are you doing?
This is very natural. We did so many shows back in the day that it's like, and back then you lived here in Louisville, but now you live in Washington State, right?
Yes, sir. Port Townsend, Washington. If anyone has seen the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, it was filmed here at Fort Worden State Park, which is about 2.5 miles north of where we live.
Now, I got to get this out first before we start talking about where you've been and what you've been up to. So, could you imagine going to, what's the name of the high school that you coach?
It's Port Townsend High School, and it is allied with Chimacum High School for sports. So the sports.
Could you imagine being a kid going to this school on the football team, and you find out, or maybe you don't even realize it, but Brooks Kubik is your strength and conditioning coach. Just imagine that for a second. How lucky these kids are. They probably don't even know it, right? They never know who you are.
They don't know Brooks Kubik from a hole in the ground. Absolutely not. It's, the younger generation, Carl, grows up in a totally different information sphere than we live in. And, it's a very interesting thing. I'm learning a tremendous amount from them. I had absolutely no idea of the forces that are driving and teaching younger people about training.
Influencers like Instagram and TikTok influencers that just came on the scene, were filling diapers just maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and now all of a sudden they know everything about strength and conditioning there is to know.
Absolutely. And they invented it all. It didn't exist earlier, and I'm just astonished. Carl, I mean, at our age, how did we do it 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? According to the influencers, it all just got invented, so we couldn't have been doing it. We must.
So are you teaching these kids about York barbell and the fathers of physical culture as you're teaching them about the movements? And I mean, I know the important thing is to make these kids stronger and faster, but do you hearken back and say, well, no, the first man to ever squat X was so and so? Do you give them a little schooling?
I give a little bit, but very, very little. The time is very precious, both for them and for us. So most of what I do is strictly teaching lifting, how to lift properly, efficiently, effectively, safely. We work through the different exercises, sets, reps, things like that. As we go forward and they have more of an idea, more of a sense about what to do and how to do it, then some of those stories will, naturally come into play. I've got several of them that I want, that I know I want to share over time going forward. One example is a famous American weightlifter, one of the greatest weightlifters of all time, who badly injured a knee doing a 135-pound snatch as a demonstration for a Boy Scout troop. And because of that knee injury, he may have missed winning an Olympic gold medal. This is back in the days when knee injury surgery wasn't very well developed for it.
It was permanent, yeah.
Yeah, and this happened because this particular lifter who did a squat style snatch in competition, but knew how to do a split style snatch. He wanted to demonstrate both of them. So he demonstrated his regular squat style, and then he said, now you can also do it this way. And he showed them the split style, which he knew how to do, but he never did it in his training. He never did it in his competitions, and he blew his knee out. And, the point of that is, if you're not practicing a particular exercise, it's brand new to you and potentially dangerous.
Yes.
Even if you're a world and Olympic champion, as this man was. So, that's something that I can share with them when they come in and, they've seen something on the internet and they're like, oh, can we do such and so? It's like, yeah, we probably could, but we're not going to. We're going to stick with what we've been doing. And, it may be a bit boring, but it's effective and it's safer. So that's an example of a story from the past that I do want to share with them.
There is if you pay attention to social media, the air quality today in Louisville. Yesterday, the air quality was 200 and something. Today, it's like 159. It's really not. It feels like you're breathing Jello.
Yeah, I feel for you.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with it anymore. So, I see these young kids because I follow a couple powerlifting groups, Instagram, not TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I haven't been on TikTok for years. And I just saw a 17-year-old kid squat with perfect depth, 865 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God, this kid has the potential to dwarf records at a very young age. And they're out there. There's people out there who have. There's another guy I follow named Rob Louie, I think it's pronounced. Black guy. He has unbelievable strength.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he pulls deadlifts in the 700-800-pound range like no big thing. Boom, he's up. There's a lot of strong people out there today, and it's really funny because you and I actually did a show once talking about once someone breaks that record, the momentum for other people to break that record just because now they believe they can.
Mm-hmm.
They saw it.
Yep.
When we look at the first 700-pound bench press, we look at what's the guy's name? Paul Davis? Was that the big muscular guy who used to do the train wheels?
Not Paul Anderson.
Paul Anderson.
Was a very famous strongman from the past, and he did. There's a photo of him doing squats with tractor wheels. But I think you're thinking of John Davis, the American weightlifting champion, Olympic champion, who lifted the Applin wheels.
That's it.
The Applin train wheels overhead and clean and jerk.
Once someone does that, other people start to imagine being able to do that, and they allow their training to take them, and they trust in their training. And next thing you know, and so I mean, it was a big deal. when Mike Miller, may he rest in peace, he just passed away last year, very sadly, very, very young. He was younger than me. Squatted 1,220 pounds in a full meet.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have people squatting 1,300 pounds like it's no big thing. It was a big deal when Tiny Meeker first bench pressed, I don't know how much, 1,200 pounds or 1,100 pounds. Now we've got the guys out there, they're putting up 1,300 pounds in a bench press. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but they're wearing a shirt. You know what? You put that shirt on and put 1,300 pounds in and you on your hands and see what happens. So I don't think there is any limit to human strength potential, because we just keep chipping away at it, and then a group goes, I'll be able to do that, and they just take it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, here's that's very true. But here's a related story about the effect of just visualizing something and then thinking, I can do it. Was working with the football team a couple days ago, and there was a really strong, big farm kid who was doing power cleans. And, big and strong as heck, but wasn't completely proficient in the movement and was a bit slow. It just wasn't having the snap and the pop that you want to see.
Right.
And, I went over to him, pulled him aside, and showed him a video from the contest that I was in 2 weeks ago. I wasn't doing a power clean, I was doing a split snatch, but it was a very, very fast, very explosive movement.
Right.
Okay. I said, that's what it should look like. Okay. I said, look, if I'm 65 and I can move that, and he's like, wow, that was fast. And I said,
I know.
if I'm 65 and I can still move that fast because I'm doing these movements and I'm practicing them hard and I'm really training them the right way, the way I'm teaching you guys, if I can do it like that at your age, as strong as you are, you should do it twice as fast as me. Okay. So I just showed him that and said, okay, do another one. So he does another set. And God, I wish we had some way of like timing them, but you could see noticeably faster.
Right.
And it was merely from seeing someone else move faster. It's like, oh, that's what what I should do. And he's like, and I'm like, do you get it? He's like, yeah. So that was a kind of interesting thing. Instantaneous response.
Yeah, it is amazing. But I think what's more amazing is what you're doing at 65. So let's talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk about the diet changes that brought this about. When did you decide, I mean, I remember when you lived in Louisville, you always did your Olympic lifts out in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't driven by weight. You were driven by form and speed. I remember we talked about that, keeping that agility, keeping that speed that goes away as we age.
Yes.
And it's obviously paid off for you. When did you decide, I think it's time for me to compete again? Where did that come from?
Okay. Well, let me go back and just kind of give you said at the start of the show, we were going to do the whole story. So let me give a little bit of the backstory.
Take your time.
5-6 years ago, while we were still in Louisville, back was banged up, shoulders were banged up, knees and feet and ankles were sore. I wasn't moving very well on my lifts. I was starting to develop a problem, which all older lifters have, which is getting the bar overhead and holding it overhead with a good arm lock, because if you don't have your elbows locked and the bar secure, you've lifted it, but it doesn't get counted. The officials will red light you.
Right.
So, I was starting to think maybe this just isn't going to be working for me going forward. And then when we moved to Port Townsend, Trudy and I literally took our computers and our laptops in a suitcase each, and that was it. My brother later shipped 2 small pallets of stuff, a little bit of furniture, some favorite books, an old exercise barbell of mine, a plate loading barbell, and some iron plates. I sold everything else, my power rack, my Olympic bars, the whole bit. Ended up with various friends and fellow lifters in the Louisville area. So I got up here with not very much. I had thought that I would be able to set up a training quarters in a garage next to the place that we live, which is a very small 2-bedroom bungalow. Well, the garage was too small for lifting, so it's like, okay, can't do that. I thought, well, I'll lift out in the backyard. Can't do that because the grass is very uneven, very mossy. It's bad footing, and
there's coyotes.
yeah. And
I hate to be in the middle of a snatch and all of a sudden the coyote shows up.
Well, I was actually lifting in the garage one day. I was doing squats, and great big deer came in the backyard and just sat down about 10 feet away and just watched me through the plate glass window in the back of the garage. Kind of interesting. But in any event, it was really almost impossible where we live to continue to do any kind of Olympic lifting. We don't have a driveway. I couldn't set up mats on a driveway. It was like, okay, whatever. So I started doing other things. A lot of body weight training, dumbbell training, isometrics. And by isometrics, I don't mean the old 6-second stuff, but 20-second, 30-second, 90-second holds, 10 sets of 10 seconds with a very quick rest. Yeah, really advanced isometric stuff that was very interesting, very good. I started training at the high school sports field, doing pull-ups and push-ups and various body weight exercises. Got a set of rings that I set up, and I do pull-ups and push-ups and dip holds and dips and things like that on the rings. So I was doing a lot of that, and then by accident, I decided to move my training quarters, and the accident was that it was rutting season here
for the deer.
And I went down to the high school sports field in October one day, and there was this great big 8-point buck sitting regally right where I like to train, surrounded by a harem of about 8 or 10 does, just sitting there contentedly eating grass. And I decided to let him stay where he was because he was bigger than me. And started looking for another place to train. And I ended up at Fort Worden State Park, a couple miles to the north. Found a tree that was perfect to hang my rings and do pull-ups and push-ups and such. And I did a workout there did that for a couple weeks. Then we had a dead seal wash ashore, and they cordoned the area off as a marine rescue area.
Even though it was dead already?
Yeah, well, they were afraid there would be more.
Oh.
And they were afraid that there were nesting baby seals. So I was like, okay, won't do that. What am I going to do? So I wandered around, and I saw a bunch of logs lying on the beach, and I thought, okay, let's pretend we're on a desert island and there's nothing to train with. What are we going to use to train with? So I started a program that I followed for about 6 months of doing nothing but dragging, carrying, lifting, holding, walking with logs.
I have to say something.
Yes.
People show up at the gym and they forget their pre-workout or they forget their earbuds, and that's it. And think about this for a second. We live in a world where if I don't have my BFR bands and my pre-workout and my pump promoting powder and my earbuds and my favorite music, I'm ready to go home. Think about this for a second. The difference in when you love to train because you love the way it makes you feel, you find a way to train. It's really a lesson in of itself. If people come away from this show with nothing more than that understanding, then this show was worth it.
Absolutely. And it was, it was a funny, I give the backstory because the circumstances that drove me to carrying logs up and down the beach I didn't plan any of it. It was just a response of, okay,
Accessibility, right?
yeah, I can't do this. What can I do? So that's, that was the genesis of that. And, if you go to my Instagram, you can see tons of photos and videos carrying logs up and down the beach. I would carry them on my shoulder. I would carry them on my chest, front squat style, Zerker style, curl style, deadlift style, one arm, two arms. I would drag them. I got a pulling harness. I'd drag one log and carry another with a smaller log. I'd run with them. I just had all these different workouts I would do. And I started doing them every day, rain or shine, and, without a miss, even if it was
Train in the morning, Brooks?
snowing, ice, whatever, I would go out and do it. And I eventually worked up to doing like 3.5 miles every day, dragging, carrying, pulling, doing crazy stuff with big
Early in the
logs.
morning, Brooks? Did you do it first thing in the morning after your 8 eggs, or did you do it later in the day?
No, I did it later in the day. Usually I'd usually head out around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and come back about 4 hours later. I'd walk to the beach and I'd walk back. So it was like,
Your cardio. Yeah.
yeah, it was a total of like 5 miles of walking plus 3 miles of dragging stuff around. It was really
Okay, so let's stay with this for a second, because there's a lot of older guys listening to this and they're thinking, man, I'd like to do that, but I have stiff ankles. I have pain in my lower back. You've dealt with pain most of your career, right? You've had periods of time where you were living with chronic pain, or am I wrong?
I think every serious athlete
Okay.
has
So
chronic pain somewhere.
tell me the metamorphosis. So you started out chronic pain, stiff ankles, your body is going, Brooks, what are you doing to us? Does it all of a sudden kick in where your body just rejuvenates because the work it's having to do?
I think that it absolutely does, combined with the right diet, which,
we're going to get into that. But think about this for a second. People have postulated that we move less and less because we get old and it's more and more painful.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is evidence that we get old and we succumb to pain because we give up pushing back and moving more and doing more.
Absolutely. And related point, what I was doing was something that was totally different from anything I've ever done before.
Interesting. So it was interesting, I bet. It was like, this is cool.
It was interesting. It was new. It was novel. But beyond that, if you've hurt yourself doing a particular activity or a particular exercise, that's always going to be sort of a question mark for you.
Right.
Once you hurt yourself doing, say, a deadlift. Deadlift is an exercise that you need to approach with caution. Or a bench press, or whatever.
Or overhead. I mean, pullover with you. That was your nemesis, the pullover.
Yes. And what I was doing with the logs was not triggering any of those old dings and dents, those old injuries, because the movement patterns were completely different. And the other thing that I would do, I'd really listen to my body. And if my body was saying, back off, go easier today, I would back off and go easier. I would alternate things that I did. So like, let's say I did one day, I did a lot of running, dragging a log behind me. Okay. Well, the next day I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to carry a log in my arms up and down the beach, but at a slower pace. And the day after that, I might be really tired, and I just park it on my shoulder like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando and just carry it up and down the beach, which actually is probably the easiest way to carry a log, is on your shoulder.
Okay. So did you have any spectators watching you, and did they come up to you and go, what are you doing?
Yes. We have lots of people who walk, hike on the beach, run on the beach, walk their dog on the beach. We have people who swim in the water year round, which is adventurous. I mean, particularly in the winter. And I got to know everybody. It was kind of like a community. The forest rangers at the park initially thought I was trying to steal the logs, which is, as I understand it, a federal crime. So it was like, no, I'm not doing that. They stay on the beach. I just carry them back and forth. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, as long as you don't take them off the beach. I'm like, believe me, I want them on the beach so I can carry them. So they actually got to the point where they were like, wow, this is pretty cool. This, look at this guy. I had people over the course of time who started doing the same thing. There actually were some women who began carrying rocks or, sticks as opposed to logs, but people started, doing the same thing. And one interesting thing was I got a lot of people who said they'd stop, and the first thing they would say is resistance exercise, bone strength, bone density. And it was like, oh, yeah, you got it.
Learning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or some people would say, what does that work? Does it work the core? Yeah,
Was there any value to walking with a load in firm sand for your feet? As we get older, our feet just get stiff. What do you think?
Absolutely. And that was part of the whole thing. I was walking barefoot. Almost every day was barefoot in the sand, and the sand was loose in some places, firm in some places. Sometimes I'd walk through the water, water up to my ankles, up to my knees. Sometimes in wet sand. Sometimes I had to kind of tiptoe around rock, which was no fun, but whatever. But that was extremely beneficial, I think, for the feet and for the ankles. It felt very primal, felt very good. You know about all the theories of grounding and walking barefoot on the earth. I think there's a lot to that just based on how I would feel when I did these. And I think that when you're walking in sand by the ocean, you're getting all kinds of unique effects. The air is fresh. You've got the ozone. You've got the sand. Your skin is making contact with it. It's very interesting. And then the other thing that I started to do, and I should have mentioned this, I guess, was that, after a while, the walking, carrying with the logs was getting too easy. So I started to do it backwards. And I don't know if you've done a show about walking backwards and the health benefits.
We talked about it with what was his name? The guy who wrote the Warrior Diet, the Israeli guy. I can't think of his name right now. It'll come.
Yeah.
Ori Hofmeckler.
Yeah.
He talked about the value of grabbing 2 moderate to light dumbbells and walking backwards down the stairs.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of research out there about how walking backwards, even without load, is very good for your balance and good. It trains different muscles than walking forward. Eventually, you can get to the point where you can jog backwards or even run backwards. And what I started doing was just carrying logs backwards.
Cool.
So that was an interesting thing. And I do a mile going forward, a mile going back, a mile of mixed stuff, whatever. Very interesting workouts that really hit everything from head to toe. And, all of this had an effect of very much restructuring my body, helping to align things, to help my posture.
I have an idea for you.
Yes.
I'm sure that Trudy probably doesn't want to do this because you guys are living in a beautiful place and you have the luxury of living there and a peaceful life. I know who you are. You've never wanted the limelight. You just wanted to be left alone to grow your garden and train hard. That's all you really care about. But imagine finding a small home that would sleep 5 or 6 people and have people pay you to come and stay there. You know, this is what Charles Staley did with his bed and barbell, which I visited when I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And he had people, and they paid considerable money because they were given meals. It was they had a chef there that cooked for them. They had beds there, but they immersed themselves in the science and everything along with physical culture, because he had his escalating density training. But I remember Phil, I can't think of Phil's last name. He's a power lifter. He stayed there a couple times, and I visited it. You could do this, Brooks, and you wouldn't have to do anything other than bring them down to the beach and let them carry logs for a week or two, and then send them home different people.
You know, I actually have thought about doing something like that, and I might very well. We have a community here where there are, you know, lots of places for people to stay. Friends living not far away from us have Airbnb set up. I mean, you know, it's easy to do. So yeah, we might do something like that.
Yeah, I would call it Jurassic Park if you can get away with the trademark because of the dinosaur portion of it. You know.
Yeah, seriously, you know, Jurassic Strength Journeys.
Yeah,
trademark, copyright.
There you go.
So anyhow, the log carrying and lifting was just absolutely tons of fun. I loved it. It was working great. Good things, good times, the whole thing. And then the weather started to get nice, and the beaches started to get filled with people. And it was like, okay, you know, maybe I need to be thinking of something else. And at exactly that point in time, something popped up on social media about a lifting contest not too far away with masters age group divisions. And I thought, maybe it would be interesting to really test this and see, okay, where am I now at age 65 in the lifting world after having done all this other stuff for the last 5 years? And, you know, after having done this big carry logs up and down the beach thing, you know, let's test it. Okay.
Yeah.
Might be fun. So that then led me to think, you know, so it was like, okay, I'm going to do that. But if I'm going to do that, I'll need a place to train. So I got a membership at a local gym that had a back corner where I was able to do, you know, Olympic lifting to some degree. Worked okay, not ideal because it wasn't a lifting gym, but you know, it was okay. Did that for about 3 weeks. One day I was walking to the library, high school football coach who knew me from my workouts at the high school football field. They needed another assistant coach to help run the weight training program during the summer. He saw me, pulled over, said, "Just the man I'm looking for." I said, "What's up?" He told me, "Would you like to do it?" And for 2 reasons, I said yes. Reason number one, it seemed like it would be a good thing for the kids. And, you know, we live in a small rural community. Everyone tries to support the kids in what they do. You know, they go to small high schools. Football team has like 25, 30 kids on the team. I mean, you know, working hard, playing hard, training hard. But, you know, it's not a big school. It's not a big program. And they don't have the money to, you know, bring in lots of teachers and coaches and this and that and the other. So I agreed to do it on a volunteer basis just to help out. Second reason, we have 2 soon to be 15-year-old fraternal twin granddaughters who were being homeschooled in Louisville. They came to visit us, and as fraternal twins will do, one absolutely hated it here. I mean, she just wanted to leave. She wanted to go home. She did not want to stay here. Dull, boring, nothing to do. The other one loved it. So much so that she prevailed on her parents to let her come back and live with us.
Cool.
And she's going to start going to high school here. She'll be a high school freshman. So I was thinking, okay, if our granddaughter is going to be going to high school here, all the more reason to do something to support the high school.
And be involved with that high school. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
I may be wrong, but are these Lily's daughters?
No. Trudy's son, Daniel,
Okay.
and his wife, Holly. I don't think you've met them.
No.
Okay.
But
But
just curious.
yeah, so that
we have
was
to take a break. We have to take a break, but I want to pop this question up because it's a question from a listener, and I'd like to address it before we go into the break. This is from YouTube, the Stork 2. What to do about hand tremors? So, hand tremors come in a couple different types. If you have idiopathic tremors or essential tremors that are not associated with a progressive neurological disorder, getting stronger will help you control them. Because if you force the muscles to grow, hypertrophy, new nerve inroads, new muscle fibers, when the muscle fibers, the new ones, don't have the same tremor problem, they will actually dampen the ones that do. Number two, again, this is assuming it's not Parkinson's disease, but testosterone therapy has helped men, if they catch it early enough, who have had essential tremor. And in fact, hormone replacement therapy helps women who have essential tremor as well. So I would suggest you find a doctor who's forward-leaning and understands this, and ask that doctor if you're a candidate for testosterone replacement therapy, number one, and get your testosterone replacement therapy, and then start practicing things that make your hands stronger, like holding logs. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you do something like a static, like you were talking about doing long, when you do a static, the muscles start to oscillate. And what that is the difference between slow twitch and fast twitch fibers. Some of the muscle fibers give out earlier. And when they do, the body instinctively calls muscle fibers that haven't been carrying the weight to kick in. So what you're seeing in this almost tremor-like movement, which occurs under heavy resistance, is a fiber failing, a fiber kicking back in, or multiple fibers failing and multiple fibers. So if you literally force the body to get stronger, the new muscle fibers will become early activated. They will help dampen what tremor you have. But please don't discount the hormone replacement therapy side of this, because it's been shown to stop it from progressing. And again, that's assuming you don't have Parkinson's disease. If you just have essential tremor, you've been told, oh, well, that's essential tremor. Essential to who? Who needs it? Why do they call it essential tremor? But anyway, yeah, look into that. I just want to get that out of the way before we go into the break. So we're going to go into the break now. And I want to talk about your diet changes, because along this process here, you're getting stronger, you're training harder. Obviously, recovery at our age is always a number one task. And the reason Brooks didn't come on in 2018 when I asked him to was because he didn't feel like the audience would be interested in hearing about him, because he went vegan again. Now, Brooks had been vegan before in his life. And like me, we're always searching for a way to eat that makes us recover faster, helps build muscle, but also reduces wear and tear on the aging body. So we're going to get into the dietary changes when we come back. And I got to say this now. It's so nice to have you back on the show. So nice. Okay. Let's not do this again. Okay. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Brooks Kubik and Superhuman Radio.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
BPC is one of the most amazing supplements you can use. It's been shown to increase the speed of recovery, heal the gut, and do so many other things. BPC stands for Body Protection Compound, and it's a naturally occurring peptide in the body. Used by professional athletes and weekend warriors alike, there has always been an obstacle in the way of average people using BPC, and that is it was injectable only. Not any longer, thanks to NutriNeeds. We now have oral BPC, and it works. Go to shrnetwork.biz/NutriNeeds, NutraNeeds. Use the code SHR and save 10% off your bottle of BPC. Feel better, recover faster, train harder. NutriNeeds. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back. I have to give a plug. We have a new sponsor coming aboard. And I really don't like the name of these products. So, True Diagnostics is the premier biological epigenetic age testing. I don't like that name, age testing. I don't believe in it. What these types of tests do is show you if you are moving in the direction of disease or away from disease. We associate aging with disease. And when I say disease, everything, stiff ankles, fibrotic tissue buildup in muscles, heart conditions, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, blah, blah, blah. These diseases are associated with aging, but I don't like to call this biological age because we don't know if you're really going to live an extra 10 years if you fix these problems. No one knows. But what we do know is this: you will fare better and you will live stronger if you don't acquire these diseases as you age. So what these epigenetic tests do, like True Diagnostics, is tell you if the things you're doing are moving you closer to disease states or away. And you can do it every 6 months because you get your first one done. You look at your, and for lack of better, okay, let's say I just sent mine in. I'm 65. Let's say it says I'm 75. Okay, what it's really saying is I'm moving towards disease faster than my chronological age. And I already know the things I'm going to change. I change them. In 6 months, I get another test and say, I'm moving in the right direction. It's like checking your compass as you walk along. These things are great to help you stave off age-related diseases and apply biological changes with your diet, your sleep, the way you exercise, the choices you make, and see if they're working. Maybe you shouldn't be taking some supplement that you're spending a lot of money for because, NMN, it's supposed to make you live longer and be stronger, but maybe it's not working for you. How do you know? This is how you know. Go to shrnetwork.biz/true, TRU-age, AGE. Use the code SHR12 for 12% off. Listen to me. If you're not testing this kind of stuff, you're just shooting in the dark. You could be spending tens of thousands of dollars on wasted stuff, and it's not improving your ability to move away from diseases. This is how you find out. True Diagnostic, the epigenetic testing company, they're right here in Kentucky. We'll probably be doing a show and visiting what they do and going to their lab. Like I said, I just sent my blood work in. And you prick your finger at home, you bleed on the Watman blotter, you put it in an envelope and you mail it away, and it's all done. And in a couple of weeks it comes back. So check it out. All right, Brooks. So you were vegan last time we communicated, and you've done vegan before, to your credit. You've experimented with it. What happened? Why did you go carnivore, and when?
As you said, always experimenting with different things, and was looking, looking for something that would really help deliver good results for older guys. Most of my audience is older men.
Right.
A lot of them have been lifting their entire lives, 40, 50, 60 years. It's that dealing with the age thing, biology versus birthday, as in the sponsor that you were just discussing.
Right.
So I was interested in that, and I don't like to just read about something and have someone say, this is the way to do it, or, this is good, whatever. It's like, I want to test it. So I wanted to test a whole food, plant-based type of diet. Call it a vegan diet, not a vegan lifestyle, but a vegan diet, which is purely shorthand for, eating plants.
Right.
And I wanted to see for myself, did it work or did it not? I tried it before, seemed to work for a while, then it didn't work. And I thought, okay, maybe if I do things differently.
Right.
Okay. So, gave it a test, got a lot of pushback from a lot of people. Our community, the strength community, is an animal food oriented, meat and dairy and egg oriented community.
Definitely.
And, it's a big issue for a lot of people. So I said, I don't want to argue about it. I want to know for myself, does it work?
Right.
So I went through that whole process. Seemed to work for a while.
Do you think the reason it worked for a while? So this is my opinion, but I've never gone vegan. But I think when people go vegan, it's such an extreme elimination diet that they inadvertently, without realizing it, remove the foods from their diet that have always been causing them problems, which is usually processed foods. And they say, I feel great. I feel light. I feel so good. And then I think it was Dr. Chris Masterjohn came on my show some years ago and said there's a very small portion of the population that has the microbiome capacity to truly live on a vegan diet, and the rest of the people just don't have it. But still, those first few months, you cut out things that made you feel crappy, and you go, well, it's the vegan diet. You're not thinking, oh, it's what I removed. You're thinking it's what I'm eating now. You think that's what it is?
I don't really think so in my own case. I think that is completely true, exactly on target for 80 to 90% of the people who switch over and initially think, wow, I feel good. But I've never eaten very much in the way of processed foods.
Crap food, right?
So, unless there's an egg allergy that I don't know about, and trust me, I know about it, or a dairy allergy, and I know there is to milk. I can't handle milk, but I can eat hard cheese, cheddar cheese, for example, is fine. I don't think it was that. I don't really know. I do know that early on in the diet, after a couple months, I've got a family history of glaucoma, have always been watching the glaucoma situation. I've been told that, you have glaucoma. I've been told you don't have glaucoma. I got a really good set of diagnostics. Yeah, a really good report 3-4 months into it. And the doctor said, keep it up. This is great for your eyes. And I was like, okay, well, so that was very encouraging in terms of sticking to it. Eventually, I got to the point where it wasn't good. I was losing muscle mass. I was hungry all the time. And I'm talking about just absolutely ravenous, no matter how much I ate. I could never get enough food. I couldn't get enough protein. When you try to eat more protein on that kind of diet, you end up with all kinds of digestive disorders and upsets. And it just finally got miserable. And one day and then the other thing, I'd flipped over to those long isometrics I was talking about, really intense isometric workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And they started to get me regaining muscle mass, regaining strength, and revved up my appetite even more. And at that point, I was like, I've got to eat protein. So we live.
Do you remember the first day? Do you remember the first day that what you ate when you thought, this is it? I got to have some animal protein.
We live in the salmon capital of the world, so it was wild caught Alaskan salmon for dinner. Felt great. Next morning, I said, you know what? An omelet would be really good today. And after that, it was just boom. So from there, I felt enormously better very, very quickly. And started to regain muscle mass like a snowball rolling downhill. It was just night and day. I ended up, over a course of 6 months, I ended up gaining about 30, 35 pounds of muscle.
That's significant.
On it, on isometrics combined with a high protein diet, essentially a keto diet. Mm-hmm. And I got really good results with that. I was watching a lot of the podcasts and reading a lot of the literature that I'd missed during the 5 years that I was experimenting with the other way of doing things. And I started seeing more and more references to the carnivore diet, which has always intrigued me. I've always been interested in the writings of the Arctic explorer Stephenson.
Yeah. But he made sure to put fat in with his protein.
Absolutely. It was a high fat / high protein diet. Yeah. That's always been intriguing. Blake Donaldson, who wrote Strong Medicine, the New York physician who basically prescribed a carnivore or very close to carnivore diet to almost all of his patients over a period of like 40 years with great results. All these things, I was like, okay, I've read about this. I'm going to try it. And so I started going, keto worked great, but I started working more carnivore. And back in September of last year, I just went completely carnivore. So meat, fish, eggs, hard cheese, butter. That's it.
No, nothing that grows out of the earth at all.
Not unless
I love broccoli, so I still eat broccoli.
No vegetables. Just I had so many vegetables over the last couple of years. I was like, I'm done with it. And related point. And this is something that if there's anyone out there listening, I'm not going to get into a war about carnivore versus vegans and bash the vegans and et cetera and so on. But all of the vegan doctors out there, all of the vegan influencers need to be aware of something, and they need to share that something with you. And that is oxalates.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I was having horrible problems with oxalates. I was one of the people who was probably a candidate for an oxalate kidney stone had I not stopped what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And that if you're going to go that dietary path, honest to God, study up, read up on oxalates, and at the very least, try to make food choices and choices of what vegetables you eat with the oxalate issue in mind.
Right.
For example, living on spinach or trying to include lots of spinach in your diet is a recipe for disaster for most people. And
what about broccoli? Is broccoli high in oxalates? I didn't even look into it.
Some people
almonds are. I don't eat almonds anymore because they're high in oxalates.
Exactly. And it's my understanding that broccoli is medium to low. But if you've had a whole lot of vegetables, as I had for a couple of years.
Yeah, right.
And you're having what appear to be oxalate issues. It's like, do you really need broccoli? Yeah, no. So I just went carnivore. I was like, I'm going to do this. And Trudy and I immediately discovered that it makes shopping a breeze, cooking a breeze, and cleaning up after cooking a breeze. So,
And
she
there's something else that's not discussed openly
Mhm.
in public or company, but I have talked about it with Dr. Sean Baker,
Mhm.
and it makes going potty a breeze. You one piece of toilet paper, you're done. And people who don't eat carnivore can't understand this, because if you eat lots of fiber, you know, beans, oh well, legumes are so good, they're high in protein. No, they're not. They're high in carbohydrates.
Yep.
But if you eat all that other stuff, you go through a lot more toilet paper. If you are carnivore, it's like you're made out of Teflon. There's nothing to clean up. Am I right or wrong? Seriously.
No, you're absolutely right. And, again, you go back to Stephenson. Okay, living with the Eskimos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just think about Eskimos toileting. You're not going to sit in an outhouse for half an hour.
Right.
It ain't going to work. You're not going to be able to go out and walk 12 miles out to where the seals are, hunt seals for half an hour. I'm sorry, hunt seals for half the day, and then walk back if you're having to take a toilet break every, however often.
And that's what a lot of people misunderstand. They go carnivore and they think they're constipated. No, you're not constipated. The carnivore diet is a low residue diet.
Mm-hmm.
You eat a lot. You assume you're going to have a big bowel movement, but you have a very small bowel movement because there's very little waste. And everything that you eat, I would venture to say 80 to 90% of what you eat is metabolized and used in your body, and there's very little to get rid of. High fiber, high residue diets, those are the people during COVID that had to go out and literally like get a truckload of toilet paper every week. I even was saying it back then. I did a very vulgar Instagram post. I was like, what are these people eating that they're crapping like that, where they have to use an entire roll of toilet paper? Like, it's a mystery to me. So yeah, and that's another way if the diet is good for you, by the way, really. Yeah. Because
so,
you'll have those low residue bowel movements.
So anyhow, what I found from September forward is that the carnivore diet worked really well. And here's an interesting thing, Carl. A lot of people say carnivore diet, don't have energy for working out because you need carbs for workout energy, right? I mean, if you've tried the carnivore diet, that's not true. But if you have not tried it, everyone is like, you need carbs for workout energy. Okay. So living on a diet of meat and eggs, I was walking 2.5, 3 miles to the beach. And then I was picking logs up and carrying them for another 3.5 miles. And then I was walking 2.5, 3 miles home from the beach, right? 3.5 hours total for that workout. How did I do that?
With no energy. Yeah, right.
Yeah, with no energy. It's like, and the other interesting thing was I immediately flipped over to 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner, and felt fine. I mean, I'd be out rambling around, hiking all over here, having fun outside, and just felt great about it. It was amazing.
Bam Bam McElrod, I hope I pronounced that right, on YouTube said he had kidney stones in both kidneys when he ate lots of spinach. He stopped the spinach, no more kidney stones. So everybody thinks spinach is so good. Popeye ate spinach, I get it. But when you eat as much as we eat, when you're in the strength and activity community, we fuel our bodies. We have to consume a lot. And your choices, you got to be careful with your choices. You really do.
If you don't believe this, if you think that this is some kind of propaganda that is made up by people pushing a carnivore agenda, whatever that might be, do this. Look for blog posts and websites by urology groups, by urologists. And you will find that urologists, including at top major universities that typically push more of a plant-based food or even a vegetarian or vegan food agenda, you'll find that the people within those communities who work in urology are very aware of the oxalate problem, and particularly spinach. I mean, spinach is like the ultimate culprit, but there are others, and they will say, do not eat these. You know, if you have kidney stone issues, do not eat them. And, you know, if you're talking to a urologist who's not, is not aware of that research, it's sort of like you're talking to a urologist who, missed class 101, 102, 103 in what should be his or her area of expertise. It's crazy. And it really is something that everybody needs to know. I mean, people in the keto community need to know that.
Right.
Now, if you're keto, but you're having a spinach salad every day, you're probably not doing yourselves any favors.
Good. Yeah. I want to take our last break, and when we come back, I want to talk about how you did in this competition, because we haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
And you set some world records. Am I correct about that?
Age group records in the AAU organization. Yes.
So let's do this. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Brooks Kubik. Also, Brooks, where can people find you nowadays? You have a new website, or do you still have dinosaur training?
Well, it is dinosaur training. It's www.dinosaurtraining.com. It used to be brookskubik.com.
Right.
Yeah. Well, long story short, we've got a new website, dinosaurtraining.com. Everyone who's listening to the show, just head on over. There's a pop-up to sign up for my daily emails. That's the best way to stay in touch. And, lots of good information there. Lots of new courses.
Brooks will be back on here again. So don't worry about that. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. I am the inventor of GunLeash. Over 500,000 handguns are lost in the United States every year. If you carry a gun like I do, you are 300 times more likely to lose your gun. And 15% of those guns will end up in criminals' hands and used in the commission of a crime. GunLeash solves that problem. GunLeash is a patented, no-tracking proximity device the size of a postage stamp. It will alert you as soon as your gun is outside of your range, so you can never leave your gun behind. To learn more and to be notified when GunLeash is available at the end of January, go to gunleash.com and get on our mailing list. GunLeash. Never lose your gun, never leave your gun.
Hey, guys. It's time to
There are lots of
change your
concerns about
fucking
food
underwear.
supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off. Great sleep upgrades you on virtually every level: body fat, muscle mass, mood, brain function, and countless other ways. But taking melatonin alone isn't the answer. Thanks to a brand new sleep formula developed by my friends at Bioptimizers, you can experience the best night's sleep ever. Sleep Breakthrough is a delicious sleep drink that supports your natural melatonin production and relaxation without creating a dependency, so you can have the best night's sleep on demand. It targets 5 different sleep pathways to give you the best sleep ever. And best of all, you'll wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated so that you can have the best day possible. For an exclusive offer for my listeners, go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Plus, you can unlock special gifts with the value of at least $20. This is a limited time offer. So go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR right now.
Hey guys, it's time to change your f***ing underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of Sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back. So Brooks set some records in this last competition. Talk about it.
Okay, so as I was saying, I'd been carrying logs up and down the beach and having a great time doing that. And then the beach started to get too populated. Couldn't do that anymore, so I was looking for something else to do. So I decided to get back into lifting. What I found after not having done Olympic weightlifting for about 5 years or so was that, I needed to regain my balance, my form, my technique, my timing. All of that was a challenge. 5 years older. I mean, doing this at age 65, it's a young person sport. Some describe it as gymnastics with a barbell in your hand. And it was really difficult to learn. So I had to put in a lot of time getting the movements back and starting to regain my lifting form and my strength. But it seemed as if the work that I had done with the logs had created a stronger core, better balance, the walking on sand, walking backwards on sand, carrying a log on one shoulder, the other shoulder, in both arms, whatever. All these different things seem to have sort of done a reset, if you will. And even though I hadn't done Olympic lifting for a long, long time, it seemed like I was farther ahead physically. I was better prepared to relearn the Olympic lifting as a result of some of these very unusual things that I'd been doing.
Interesting.
So that was kind of an eye-opener. Trudy watched me work out sometimes, and she said, "You're moving so much better than you used to move. It's incredible." I was like, I think she's right. Okay. So I didn't focus on heavy weights. I focused on, trying to do the movements very fast and very explosively and correctly. I was using the split style of lifting as opposed to the squat style. My shoulders are too stiff and too tight to, come anywhere near a squat style snatch or even a squat style clean. But I was using the split style, which a lot of masters age weightlifters will use. And I just kept working on that speed and that technique and that form. I got in about, overall, it was less than 8 weeks of training. I think it was more like 6 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was really seriously focused, concentrated training. Oh, I know. I meant to say, once I started working with the football team, I got to work out in the football team's weight room.
That's nice.
So the guys would be training after school down at the football field, doing football workouts, football practice. And I'd be up in the weight room, which was completely empty at that point in time. And, do a 90-minute to 2-hour weightlifting workout. And then when they were done with football, they'd come up and we'd go through their strength workout. So it worked perfectly. So I had a great place to train. very convenient. The high school weight room is about 2.5 blocks away from where we live. So it's like, basically our backyard. So
AAU is the organization that Perry Rader started, right?
well, he didn't, but he didn't start it, but he was one of the officials in the AAU back in I think as far back as the 30s, definitely the 40s. The AAU is, if not the oldest amateur sports organization in the U.S., one of the oldest. And there's a period of time where essentially all amateur sport, any sport, not just weightlifting, but anything in the United States was governed by the AAU. So it was in charge of track and field, softball.
Very prestigious organization.
Yeah, extremely. And, all the great champions of the past who won bodybuilding titles won the AAU
Right.
Mr. America.
Mr. America, the AAU Mr. America was the crown jewel at one time.
Absolutely. And, all of the weightlifting champions of the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s were AAU weightlifting champions. The top teams were AAU. And then in, I believe, 71, 72, of course, someone decided that's a bad thing to have one organization running everything. You've got antitrust issues, blah, blah, blah. They split it up, and now you've got lots of different organizations that are involved in lots of different sports.
Mm-hmm.
And powerlifting is splintered into, I don't know how many different organizations, probably half a dozen to a dozen. I just don't know. Bodybuilding, Carl, you'd know more about this than I do, but there must be.
I don't even follow it anymore.
Okay.
IFBB, NPC,
Yeah, it's like alphabet soup. So anyhow, I had a chance to lift at an AAU meet in Las Vegas, which is not too far away from where we are. Said, sounds like a good time, fun time, give it a try. So trained for it, lifted in the age 65 to 69 age group.
Right.
In the 90 kilo division. I was weighing about 187, 188.
Mm-hmm.
I could have dropped down to a lighter weight class, but I didn't want to try to lose the weight and deal with losing weight at the same time that I was trying to regain my form and training so hard. I wanted to just focus on the training. So I competed at 90K, was well under the weight limit. I competed in the basic division for the 65 to 69 age group, and also a lifetime drug-free masters division, again, age 65, 69. And had a great day. Went 6 for 6 on my lifts, won both divisions. Almost every lift set one or more records in both divisions.
Wow.
When you get up to the clean and jerk, if your snatch and your clean and jerk constitute a total record, every clean and jerk could be potentially 2 records. And that's why I said one or two records. Walked out of there with this hardware.
Oh, nice. That's a nice one. That's better than a sword.
Much better than a sword. And I got 3 of them.
Nice. Wow, beautiful. Congratulations.
Finished the day. We have I told you we lived in a tiny little bungalow. Where we're going to put them, I don't know. I even won, and this was absolutely astonishing. I won an award for the best male lifter.
Really? That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love the background of Las Vegas. That's a beautiful plaque.
It's beautiful, and it's big. It was actually hard to fit in my luggage and get it back home. I think that was in part because I did the lifts in very good form, fast and explosively, and a number of the judges and lifting officials were longtime lifters who grew up in the era when people did split style lifting, or at least a lot of them did split style lifting, and they hadn't seen it for a while. And they were like, oh, wow, that brings back good memories.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the meet. I enjoyed the organization. The AAU did something interesting. They have children's categories, teenagers, adults, and masters. And they all lift together. So we started off with an 8-year-old girl lifting, and then her 10-year-old sister, and their father lifted with them in the same competition. Okay. That was pretty cool.
All being graded differently. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, all competing against their own age group. Their dad was in the age 35 to 39 or 40 to 45 group. But it was a really cool thing. There were some teenagers who were lifting, some really strong high school football players who knew how to lift, who entered it because they wanted to enter a weightlifting meet. The other thing that they did, the contest was a lot like the Arnold Classic. It was not just weightlifting, but it was weightlifting, powerlifting, push-pull, feats of strength, which is strongman, moss wrestling, and kettlebell lifting.
Wow.
That's some seriously strong kettlebell people, as well as powerlifters. And in many of their shows, they also have a bodybuilding event, and the bodybuilding has all the different categories. Men, women, bodybuilding, figure, classic,
classic physique,
pairs, mixed pairs. I'm not sure what, teams, everything in the world. And the idea is we're promoting sport for everyone, because
and sportsmanship, right? Exactly.
Sports and sportsmanship, and it's because of all the benefits of sport and athletic activity, etc. Healthy mind and healthy body, all of that, and we want everybody to be able to do it.
Right.
And so it's a very big tent, if you will, very inclusive.
I just want to, the stork, stick around. I answered your question earlier, but we'll do it again. You might have signed off, so stick. That's why I've got that question hanging there. We will get to it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So, and anyhow, that was it. And, I had a great time. My first time in, a true sanctioned weightlifting event as opposed to a powerlifting event. And my first time in an AAU contest, and I just, I just had a wonderful time. Think very highly of the AAU and their competitions, what they're doing, and the work that they're doing to promote healthy sport for people, literally of all ages. So good athletes, good people.
Let's do this, and then we can call the show. And so I answered this earlier. The stork, you have hand tremors. If your tremors are associated with Parkinson's disease, what I'm going to say right now may not be a help. But if you have been told you have essential tremor or idiopathic tremor, you need to make your hands and arms stronger. As you get stronger and your muscles get bigger, the new nerves that will be developed and the new muscle fibers that will be developed will dampen the ones that want to cause problems for you. Yes, essential tremor. Yeah, so if you have essential tremor, you need to make them stronger, and you need to go find a doctor who will look at you and see if you're a candidate for testosterone therapy. There are a lot of men who had essential tremor, not only their hands shake, but their arms, sometimes their leg, and they get on testosterone and it goes away in a couple months. So the first thing is make that body part stronger so that new nerve fibers and new muscle fibers are formed, and they will dampen the tremor. And also go talk to a doctor about getting on testosterone therapy. There's a couple good studies. If you search PubMed or the National Institutes of Health, and you just put in there essential tremor and testosterone, you'll find a bunch of studies that support this idea of using testosterone to help men get rid of essential tremor. That's it. Brooks Kubik, it's been great to have you back on the show. It's like old times. Everything happens. We fit together perfectly. It's great, and we'll have you back on more and more. Are you going to be writing any new books?
I'm always writing new books and new courses. I've got a new course out on isometric and iso hold training, which is so new that we don't even have an order button on the website. If you're interested in it, you need to sign up for my daily emails and then use my new email address for the new website, dinosaurtraining.com, to shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm interested in the new book. And, I'll tell you how to place an order. We have new Kindle books. Old School Strength Training is a new one that I think most of the listeners will enjoy. And I always have issues of my monthly newsletter, the Dinosaur Files, my strength training newsletter. That comes out every month, and that's filled, just crammed with all kinds of good strength information.
So the best way to do this is to go to dinosaurtraining.com and sniff around and look where to sign up for the newsletter and where to get the books. But it all starts there at dinosaurtraining.com.
Yeah, and if you get hold of me through that, please let me know that you watch this show, and let me know how
It looks like Finn Mackey has already ordered his isometric hold book. There you go.
Oh, perfect, excellent, cool. Yeah,
Brooks, say hello to Trudy for me. Great having you today. We'll see you again soon. Okay.
Thanks very much, Carl. My pleasure. Appreciate it very much.
That's all the shows this week. In 2 weeks, I'm going to launch the first episode of EDC Experience with Carl Lenore. This is going to be for Gun Leash. We're going to interview people who carry guns and what we need to know about carrying guns and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a different show entirely than this. We won't be talking about strength and conditioning or exercise or diet, but we're going to talk about the realities of carrying a gun in America today. And so keep an eye out for that. You can sign up. If you go to gunleash.com, sign up for the email list. You'll be notified when the first episode is coming out. All right, Brooks, take care, brother. Have a good weekend, okay?
Thanks, Carl. You too.
And we'll see everybody. We'll see everybody next. I have a bad microphone. We have a couple good shows planned for next week. So see you then. Don't forget, share the show. You never know who you're going to help. You can help somebody. They hear the show. They start doing things. Their life changes. See you then.